What is happening, Cup Bangers? Today is a hot day in LA. I'm Alejandro, and let's talk about cars, yo. Hit it, Pedro! In today's episode of Let's Talk About Cars, yo, I want to talk to you guys about how car companies are screwing you. And that's going to be the main subject of the video. Now, on the last video we made, we gave one of these away. This one's going away for the next person who's already subscribed, likes this video, and comments down in this video. So please participate in the conversation. It'll get you a beautiful hat. And the winner of last week's hat is... boop! Congratulations, you bastard. Now, getting into the video, I didn't want to make this video until later down the line. It's been a while since I've been thinking about making this, and I haven't done it, honestly, because I've been waiting for the sign. Like, what's going to be the right time? And I don't know if you saw this, but John Oliver last night had a great show where he talked about car lending. And I think that's a good place to start right now. On point number one, I want to talk about car lending, which is exactly what John Oliver talked about last night, because that's the first step of this whole thing. Car lending is messed up. John Oliver mainly focused on subprime loans. What exactly is a subprime loan? A subprime loan is essentially a loan that is given to someone that cannot in any way, shape, or form have a credit, right? So that person is going to get a loan based on collateral, which is the same car. These loans tend to have a massive interest rate. And these are generally screwing just the people that are getting the loans, because these are loans that are meant to fail. They don't want this loan to go through in the right way. Even if it goes in the right way, 18%, 29% a year, that's really good money. But if it doesn't, this is where all these little car financing companies come in and screw you, because they are giving you money that they know you can't afford at a way higher rate than everyone else. So if a car is worth $3,000, I'm gonna give you the car and say, you're gonna pay it back in 5 years. And instead of giving me $3,000 basically in the whole 5 years, somehow you're gonna end up paying $15,000 to $20,000 for the $3,000 car. A few months into it, you're not gonna be able to make payments anymore, but these payments are already really, really high, so I'm pretty covered here. And I'm gonna take the car back once you don't make the payments. They take the car back, sell it to someone again, and do it again. So by selling the car 3 times, that's how you get into these. That's the real business that those loaning companies have and are making. It should be extremely legal because of how they're doing it and the reason why they're doing it. But let's face it, it's a reality, and we need to be better educated as far as not grabbing loans that are just ridiculous and that we can't afford. Don't ever let anyone tell you that you don't feel comfortable affording. If you can't, you know it. And if you don't, please make sure you do. So who's getting screwed right here? Obviously, people that don't have that much money. But Alejandro, is that happening a lot in the big scope of things? I actually think it is, but not that much. On the bigger cars, if you want to buy a Pagani, if you want to buy a Ferrari, like a big Ferrari, if you want to buy a Lamborghini, not a Lamborghini, I guess. But if you want to buy like $1 million to $2 million cars, it gets really hard to get a loan. But if you're buying anything underneath that, like I want to say up to $500,000, it's pretty lenient and it's flexible. You can pretty much walk into any dealership with very little things. You'll walk out of there with a car, which is nuts. And that's not good. What does that mean? That means that they're creating securities with those loans, because all of those loans get packaged into little securities, and those securities get sold on Wall Street. So who's getting screwed? The people investing in those securities, the people that are buying those securities. When those packages get leveraged, then you create a mess. So there's a lot of people investing on the same thing. All those investors are screwed in the same way that the guy who's buying the car that can't afford it is getting screwed. They're getting screwed out of money. Like, their return is not gonna be the same. So there's point number one. Point number two is a victim of our solid economy. The worldwide economy is thriving right now, or has been thriving for a couple years after the recession. And because it's been going up, there's a lot more money available everywhere in the world, and everyone wants a piece of that more money that exists. Therefore, car makers get into that label. So what are they doing now to screw you? What car makers are doing is they're inflating their numbers of sales. And what exactly do I mean by that? I mean, there are reports out there that any car dealer at pretty much any given time has reported that 50% of their inventory that's on the dealer is sold. That's right. And they get those numbers and put them down and add them up. And then the big companies come out and say, guys, we sold all these cars. Look at us. We're killing it. When that's not true. This is a humongous problem, because car companies are doing that to prove that they're making more sales. Why are they trying to make it look like they're making more sales? So that people can buy their stock. So they're fooling people into buying their stock with a technicality, saying, Well, the car did sell to the dealer, technically, not to people. But it's not true. There are some other companies that actually try to do 100% of their inventory on the floor and write it all up as sold out. I swear to God, there's been a couple cases where the dealerships are actually suing the manufacturers because if they don't accept and take all those numbers and give them as sold, the manufacturer is going to blackmail that dealer and they're not going to give him the most exclusive cars. The better cars are going to throw in the ugly specs and all of that stuff. So that's a proven thing. That's happening left and right. And what exactly happens when this happens? Well, all of the investors that are buying the paper for the big manufacturers are losing because there's no real sales that back up the numbers. It's all speculation. Does that sound a little Enron? Because it is exactly like that. They're selling you on an idea that they sold those things without anyone verifying it. So if you start piecing it together, fake values, easy money out the door, investors are happy with a percentage of profits that don't exist. Does that sound familiar again, guys? Does that sound a little 2008 to you? Okay, this is just within the car industry, obviously, and I'm sure there's more examples of other things. I'm just talking about exclusively cars. So who loses in this example? Well, number one, the customer obviously always loses. Number two, the investors, because you're buying in their trust, you're always going to lose. Number three, employees at dealerships and dealers themselves sometimes. Why? Because they are going to have to fire people once their stock goes down. The sales are real, like the real numbers come out, and the dip happens. So people's lives are at stake here. It's not just a simple fix anymore. And point number three relates to dealers. Dealers are actually screwing up their customers for the most part. Not everyone, obviously, some of them are, when they get limited edition cars that are hot. So what do these dealers do? For example, say that this is just an example, and I'm not saying that this happened in any way, shape, or form, I'm just saying this is an example. Let's say that I order as a dealer, I'm guaranteed by Porsche 13 spots for GT3 RS. I'm gonna open pre-sales, right? And of course the VIP clients have to get their car. But everyone else, it's at my discretion. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get all the deposits. I'm probably gonna get 30 deposits, right? For the car. They're not gonna say how many. They're like, oh, we don't know how many spots we're getting. Let's see what happens. So they'll take 30, 40, 50 deposits for 13 cars that they're gonna get. The 3 cars that are going to the VIP program, sold. The rest of them, they come in and the dealer will call everyone and say, oh man, guess what? You didn't get a car. What a shame. Next thing you know, that same car that was going to you, it's spec'd in a different way, but it's the same VIN number and it's being sold at the dealer for a markup that's massive. Obviously, that's a problem. Number one, you're creating a bubble price market that doesn't exist. If those people would have gotten the car, the demand wouldn't be so high. Right? Number two, now you're going to get a loan on that car that you can afford. So that is a problem from a company that is not even selling as many cars as they're telling you and you're paying more for. It's just throwing more fuel into the fire over and over again from every single angle. And at this point you might be wondering, but how can that be a bubble if the people are able to pay for that car? Right? Because then that's the real price of a car, whatever supply and demand, right? Well, not everything is what it seems, and that brings me to point number 4, supply and demand. We have a very different perception of what supply and demand is from reality. Supply and demand, let's say that there is a company out there that's making a limited edition car. This is just an example, right? And they're gonna make 499 of them, and they don't put a plate number on it. And again, this is just a random example. And they don't number the cars, right? And they're like, oh, we're selling 499 of these cars, and they all come out, they sell them at $1 million, and they all, like, the moment they land, they're worth $2 million. What if I told you that that company has recorded VIN numbers of almost double those cars? Does that mean the price gets cut in half? That's a bubble, and that's a bubble that we're helping create, by the way, because a lot of people are aware of these things and no one is saying anything to the manufacturers. So again, who gets screwed in here? The buyer, because if the information comes out that there's more cars, you're gonna lose money on your car. So you get screwed right away too. This is a bad practice, period. Now, point number 5, false advertising. A lot of people think I'm obsessed with lap times. The reality is I am not. What really caught my attention was when I was able to afford these cars, I had a random idea, not a random one, an idea that everyone in the car world have built of what cars were the fastest ones, the ones on top of every list, the ones that on your favorite show make it to number 1, maybe to number 3 when they deserve to be number 1, whatever that is, right? That fake advertising, that false advertising, it's creating a bad thing within the market too. Why? because car makers are making deals with car magazines, with car reviewers, where they go, here's my car, or not even a deal, but just an understanding. If I give you the new Bugatti and you talk shit on it, guess what? You're not getting the Super Sport. You're not getting first dibs at that. And then the other side of that story is, hey, this car kind of sucks, but the next one we're doing, let me give it to you first so you can review it and just talk really, really highly of it. So that happens at every level. And you're saying, well, Andra, what does that matter? Let me tell you how it matters, because by the time the cars land, we all have a picture of what's the fastest, what's the coolest, what we're expecting on a car. And when the car comes, you're buying it based on hype. You're saying, this is the fastest fucking car around the track, around the thing. Well, guess what? You take it out to the track and you realize, wait a second, this is not that fast. Then you start seeing other people that have no financial interest or benefit whatsoever from showing you real times, and you go, holy shit, what happened here? Homie, you were lied to by these people, by these magazines that you trust, by these things that you read, that you watch every day, because this is the way of the world. These companies have to make money. Advertising in magazines, it's dying. I mean, the magazines are like that thin, and 50% of them are just ads. And those ads are not really well paid because of the imbalance from TV advertising into any other media of advertising, especially online, which is extremely disproportionate. So they need to sell stories. They need to be able to get a couple $1,000s here, a couple $1,000s there, so they can make their nut, if that makes sense, right? That's why you're seeing cars that are incredibly fast on a TV show, but not that fast in real life. And also incredibly fast cars that pull out insane numbers that, by the way, are not regulated by anyone. And there we are, just buying it all. So what happens when the car comes and you don't like what you got because you were sold on something completely different? You're gonna sell the car and you're gonna be mad. And you're gonna drop that car like it's nothing. And I just saw 2 of those things happen with massive cars. And it was ugly because the price was cut in half, and that brings the value down. And guess who gets screwed up again? That's right, homies, we're fucked. So all the way from the manufacturers to the dealers to the lending system to the hype over cars, everything is a big fat lie. And I never wanted to make this video without really having a plan, because the reality is I hate when I see anything on Facebook and pray for that guy, or here's that thing and I'm not gonna do anything. Well, let me tell you this, you guys have seen what we've been doing. You guys see the numbers that we're pulling in things. We're gonna keep doing that, and we're gonna be even better at it, because I don't think, to me, to everyone that I know, just having a conversation with people now, it's becoming weird, because everyone is saying, dude, everything you're saying goes completely against everything I've ever read. Well, because car makers, because magazines, because reviewers, everyone's being paid off, or everyone's being bribed with a better deal for something, or with a better car for something. And that's never gonna happen here. I don't care about any of that. I just want the consumers to know what the real landscape of the car world looks like, what real numbers are, what the real product that you're buying is, because that way we're not going to create any fake values, because that way car makers are not going to be pressured into selling crazy amount of numbers of cars so they can fake profits and all of that stuff, because all of that has to disappear in order for us to avoid a bubble. And that bubble is not going to affect the richest people there anymore, because there's so much cash in the world being created every single day. This is going to affect more of the middle to lower markets. So guys, be on the lookout. Cup bangers, you saw my explanation. Evidence you're asking? We'll get to that on every single video. I don't want to overwhelm you with everything. Just take this for what it is. It's just a reality. This is just the way the world works. Think about it a little bit. And please let me know, what do you think the most fucked up part of this whole thing is? I'm very curious to know your opinion, your fears, or what excites you about this. Thank you so very much for watching. As always, Cup to the Bangers. I'm Alejandro, and I do not approve this message. Platinum clap. I'm out.